JavaScript fetch. So let's just imagine that we want to show some users in someone's friends list. And obviously we could like write the users here in the code and they're just always in people's friends list, no matter who they are. But usually that's not what we want. We want to be able to show them only their users and also be able to save the users somewhere else, not just like have them written in the code. So fetch is what we use to actually get the users that are saved somewhere else. So I'm just gonna make a function called get users, and this function is going to, as you might guess, get the users, and we're going to use fetch to do that. So all we have to do to use fetch is type fetch, and it's a function, and then in here we just type whatever website we want to get the users from. So we might have some computer that has like all the users that signed up for our app saved somewhere, and in here we just write where that computer is. So usually that's the backend. When people talk about the backend, that's what they're talking about, just some computer with like maybe all the users saved on it, and that's the backend. So now we could set up a whole backend in this video on our computer, but that kind of would be distracting from us learning what fetch does. So I just left a link in the description below that you can click on, and that will take you to this website right here. And it has a backend already set up. So this is what a backend looks like. I know when we hear people talking about it, it sounds complicated. It literally, it can be as simple as like 10 lines of code. And you notice this is JavaScript. So it's not, I mean, yeah, there are some new things here, but hey, look. There's some users, there's James, just regular JavaScript. It's just an array with James in it. And we're gonna try to get this users array and send it back. So to do that, on the right hand side of the screen, we're just gonna click this fork button up here, and that will let us actually make edits to this. So we can just sign in with Google or whatever, and then once we do, it'll look like this, the same exact thing. But now we can actually like edit stuff and play around with it. So now that we've done that, on the right side, we'll have a link, and we can just copy this. And this is where our backend is and where we can get our users. So we'll just paste that in here, and that will let us fetch the users from our backend, which is what we want. Perfect. Now, obviously, yeah, we just got them, but we should probably save them in a variable and, you know, check to make sure that we got them, right? So I'm just gonna make a variable, and when we fetch something, we get a response or a reply back, right? So I'm just going to save this as the response, and we will get something back. Now, the only thing that we gotta know is that actually getting something from another computer takes some time. So we need to wait for it to finish getting the users before we actually save it in the variable. So to wait for that, all we gotta do is type await, and that is going to let us wait for fetch to get our users. Now you'll notice that it's telling us that we forgot something, and this message basically just says, hey, you forgot to make this function async. Async is just a keyword that we can use for functions, and it lets us use await to wait for things. So that's it. That's all we had to do. That's all we had to do to wait for fetch to get our users. So now we've gotten the users, and we've waited until that's finished, and now we've saved it in a variable response. So I'm just going to take a look at that, the console.log out response, and we won't have the users just yet, but we will see something. Oh yes, we actually we will see something when we actually use the function. I haven't used it yet, so I should probably actually call the function down here. So we won't see the users just yet, but we will see something. We'll see, hey, you got a response. The reason why we haven't seen the users yet is because the internet doesn't really know what JavaScript objects and arrays are. It doesn't really know what those are. So it just sends it as a string. And this is something called JSON. JSON is something called JSON. Yes. And the internet just sends it as text, and they call that JSON when they do that. So we just got to change that back into like a real JavaScript array or like objects or whatever, so that we can use them. And so the way that we do that is just by typing whatever we saved our response in, and then to change it from JSON back into like real JavaScript so we can use it is by just typing JSON in parentheses at the end. And that's it. That's how we change our response back into JSON. And this also takes some time, so We just gotta wait for it. So let's type await. And now we've actually gotten our users. So we can save this in a variable. And now finally just log out our users. And hopefully, yeah, so now we got our users from our backend on our front end on the website. So that is how that works. Fetch helps us do that. So all we gotta do, once again, just to review, is fetch the stuff from the backend. Once we get the response, we just gotta turn it back from JSON into like JavaScript so we can use it. And then we can log it out. Super simple, literally 2 lines of code. And whenever we use await to wait for something, just gotta remember to put it inside of an async function. All right, cool. So that's how fetch works. That's it. There's some other things that we can do with fetch, but this is most of what we'll be doing. What we did here was we got some stuff. So we made a get request. We got some users, but we can also use this to send things. And sometime in the future, we'll take a look at that. But that's basically how fetch works. Super simple. Yeah. So hopefully that was helpful. And if you'd like to support and allow me the time to think of ways to help others feel less intimidated by tech, feel free to check my link out below to my Patreon. And as always, may the odds be ever in your favor and the snacks be ever in your bag.